Hey, it's Ben Trigo from Elephant Herd Consulting. I help founders generate wealth through better finance. One of the things I wanted to talk about is the importance of managing your inventory and your PO process and cycling your capital faster. Not only will it impact your ability to grow, it really will impact your ability to survive, especially in these difficult environments. So let's look at two companies, two hypothetical companies. They have the exact same income statement. So both these companies are doing $10 million of sales and they're getting down to a 6% EBITDA margin. Everything is the same. But if we add in a little balance sheet info, company A is carrying 2 million, company B is carrying 7 million of inventory. Very different days inventory, obviously, 243 days versus 85 days. Very different inventory turnover ratios of 1.5 for company A versus 4.3 for company B, who's cooking along nicely. Obviously, big changes in the net working capital. This is really driven by the difference in the inventory. A needs 2.9 million, B needs 1.6. So B needs 1.3 million less of net working capital. And their cash conversion cycles are very different, right? Because of that inventory. So A has a 251-day cash conversion cycle, whereas B is at 92 days. Again, almost doing 4 times a year. So let's say miraculously these two founders of A and B are able to find $2.5 million of equity, and they're going to invest it all in the marketing budget. So again, the companies have the exact same CAC, the exact same new customer AOV. They can turn that $2.5 million into $5 million of sales. Awesome, 50% growth. You can see the dollar signs spinning in the eyes. But A and B keep their PO and inventory processes the same. So that $2.5 million of additional marketing budget generating $5 million of sales is going to require an additional $1.45 million of net working capital in A's case, but only $800,000 of net working capital or additional net working capital for B. So where do they get it? Where do they get that additional money for the net working capital? So let's say because they're at the $10 million range, they're going to look to MCAs or short-term borrowers. And again, this is totally simplified napkin math. I have a very detailed MCA calculator that I can I'll put a link in the post. But this, for illustration purposes, let's say there's a factor rate of 6%, 1.45 factor rate of 6%, 87K, results in a payback, a total repayment amount of a little over 1.5 million. MCAs are looking to get paid back in 150 days, so they're going to say, hey, I need a little over $10,000 per day to get me there. All right, so A cranked up sales from 10 million to 15 million. New daily sales are a little over 41K. But this payment means that they've got to pay 25% of sales, right? B's case, you do the same math, needs much less money. Comes out to a little about 14% of sales. But hey, wait a second, like these guys only have 6% EBITDA margins. So you now see how you get into these negative debt spirals. Not only are you having to borrow a lot more to fund that inventory and that net working capital need, but you end up having to borrow money to repay the funds you've already borrowed. So this isn't going to work. Don't do it. Full stop. So how do we figure out, kind of in a rough way, you would use a much more detailed model, but how can we kind of figure out like what is the growth that these guys can handle, right? So instead of taking that $2.5 million, and because I've done this, I'm just going to plug in the numbers. Let's say that A only takes on 435K, right? A's goal is to break even. All right, so 435 generates an additional 870K of sales. They need a little over 250K of new net working capital to fund that. And going out to the MCAs, it works out. They're like, okay, I can handle it. But this is their max growth. They can do 9% increase, right? Given that capital cycling. Let's look at B. B with much better capital cycling. Let's say they they dump 850K additional into marketing. They grow at 17%. they need to borrow about the same in net working capital, and they get out to break even. So the point here is your ability to cycle capital directly impacts your ability to grow. Reach out with questions. If you need help, I'm here through, DMs are open. You can reach out through elephantHerdConsulting.com. I look forward to hearing what your thoughts.